In a universe full of ideas, we draw lightness from the dark to a place where opposites attract. Right meets left, positive touches negative, sparking an explosion of truth. Because politics makes strange bedfellows.
I see your cat has decided to join us. What's Kitty's name?
That's Ozymandias, although he's got a mind of his own. Sometimes he wants cuddles and then he doesn't. So
He just wants your attention. Well, speaking of people that they tell us are crazy and we shouldn't be listening to, all of us here on Strange Bedfellows, I think, I'm not sure about Rick. He's Canadian anyway, so he can't vote. But I think we all support Robert F. Kennedy Jr., or at least we all did until his recent pivot on the Israel-Palestine question. And I don't know if that's changed how you guys feel about him. I know you were both very enthusiastic about him until he took this hard stance on Israel. And, I'm hearing this every day from many of my friends on the left who say, I love Kennedy, but his stance on Israel is a deal breaker for me. It's that one issue that they will not compromise on. So I was going to ask you guys how you feel about that.
You want to go first, Kynan?
Sure.
Or just before you go, if you just type in Nancy Kissinger, LaRouche, it's the first thing that comes up in Washington Post. But anyway, go on, Kynan.
That's great.
Yeah. Well, I'll just preface it by saying I disagree with maybe 60% of what RFK says, minimally. On the environmental stuff, I really disagree with them on that. Israeli-Palestine, hugely disagree with him. But I think RFK represents a kind of people I don't think are seeing him correctly. It's not about the particular beliefs or issues that he talks about, which makes him so potent as a candidate, but he's coming out of this legacy of having his uncle, his father, and Ted. I don't know what Ted Kennedy's relation to him was, but he also, he was killed.
His uncle.
His uncle. Yeah, as you had talked about on our previous show, he's coming out of that. And the United States still hasn't reckoned with the fact that the assassination files, they've never been released. So we don't know anything about what really took place. So he's going into that, and he always talks about the American University speech, which is, I think, the most important speech that any president has really given in the past 60 years in politics, where he's saying, we need to put our foot in the shoes of our adversary. He talked about 1 out of every 7 Russians being killed in World War II. And that was a shock to the U.S. back in the day when you had, things like, what was that? Oh, Combat, being released, like, how the Americans were the ones that single-handedly defeated the Nazis. But Kennedy, sought this sense of understanding in the American public with the Soviets. And Khrushchev actually let that speech be transmitted in the nation. And also,
it was published on the front page of Pravda. Yeah.
Right.
Which is very rare for any American president or politician's words to, make it into the Iron Curtain. But that speech was broadcast on Radio Moscow, and it was published on the front page of Pravda.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Which didn't go over well back home for Kennedy. It was a political disaster for Kennedy. Next thing you know, his political opponents were calling President Kennedy a communist, which led to a lot of the backlash coming at him from the right when he went to Dallas. And, the day that Kennedy arrived in Dallas, the Dallas Morning News had a huge full-page ad accusing Kennedy of being a communist, saying, "Welcome to Dallas, Mr. Kennedy. You should be held to account for your loyalties to Russia and not the American people. You are a Soviet agent, a Russian agent." That's the same charges they're leveling at RFK Jr. right now. That's what they're saying about him too.
Right. And it's important you bring that up, because I would add that the context of him having met Rabbi Schmuley in this public forum, and the discussion was pretty bad. I'll just say that. But you had Congresswoman Schultz, I think her name was, at the hearings, and she's also disgraced because the WikiLeaks files, had shown that she had favored Hillary over Bernie, and that she was leading the charge to sabotage Bernie's campaign. So she's, utterly disgraced for that. But she had falsely labeled RFK as an anti-Semite. She had totally miscontextualized, what he was saying, which had nothing to do with COVID-19, by the way, but about the totalitarian surveillance measures that are being enforced right now, that Snowden has revealed, etc. So I think, that's an important reason for why RFK would show up with someone like this. Maybe they had some relationship in the past. But that's my view of him. I think what he's doing by evoking the spirit, the ghost of his uncle and of his father is absolutely needed now and will be potent and really reshaping American politics today. So I disagree with him on a lot, but on that, I'm totally down. I'm totally down to support him.
Well,
What do you think, Jose?
I do agree with what Kynan said. I think what's important is the fact that you have a dialogue. I think, I don't know if you have the video. We'll play it at some point of what Kynan.
I do.
Good. Okay, great. Well, then just to kind of set up why it was so important, what Kynan did is that he actually initiated a dialogue between himself, which Kynan is only 22 years old, and then Kennedy, who, he's what's like in his 70s, like 72 or something, or
69,
He
right?
is 69 years old.
Okay, what a great age to be. And he, so Robert Kennedy is part of one of the biggest American dynasties, right? That's a Kennedy, right? And he understands the history. He knows the history of his family. He knows the importance of the legacy. Clearly, he gave that speech on June 20th, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to have
Great
a relationship. Speech. Yeah, you need to have a dialogue. Yeah, I think, I provided the live stream for you to actually watch it.
That's right. Yes, you did.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah.
And yet here I am working on the Kennedy campaign, and I'm trying to tell people as a volunteer recruiter, he's not just another politician. He's not like all the others. That's the case I'm trying to make to people. And boy, I've had my work cut out for me this week. For that very reason that you just outlined, Rick.
That's what they said about Trump when he ran. And, as soon as you declare your candidacy, you're a politician.
Yes.
You have to play the game. It's just the way it is.
So. That's true. And Bobby's new at this. Even though he's been around politics all his life, he's never filed to run for any political office ever. And it's different when the shoe's on your foot. You can no longer stay above the fray.
You're like the worst cheerleader for RFK Jr. You're like saying,
yep, that's why the campaign will not
if he wants
give
to
me a
win,
salary.
He needs to get better video. That video is all washed out. What is that?
It looked terrible, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
And the video was all clipped up on YouTube. They had all kinds of technical issues, just like every time Kennedy does a live stream. Rick, don't we know about that here at Maverick News? I don't know what's going on over there at Team Kennedy, but they sure need a new web team. I don't think they know how to live stream. It's been a mess, a hot mess. But I do want to show you one more clip from this event. I want to show you Kynan's question, because Kynan had the opportunity to ask a really great question, and Kennedy gave him a really great answer. So
just before you run that, I need to jump off. Might be back on at the end, but I need to step away. But guys, if I don't make it back, thank you very much for what you're doing, and it's great to meet both of you. Hopefully, I'll get back before the end of the broadcast, but I do need to step away. It's been a pleasure.
Yep, got to go walk Cosmo.
That's right. Okay.
All right, we'll see you in a bit, Rick.
Thank you.
So, like I said, this meeting got kind of loud and acrimonious at times, and just before Kynan gets up and asks a wonderful question, things were really heated in the room. Can you guys explain what happened just before Kynan asked his question?
Oh, yeah, I can explain that. Well, our friend, Janet, who also did an intervention, she had
a very effective one, by the way. It was a very good intervention she did. I think it was the best you could do in those circumstances.
Yeah, but she had directly, confronted Schmuley on his lies, on his, whitewashing of Israeli crimes, and she brought something I thought was really relevant that didn't show that, went against the narrative that Israel is not an apartheid state. They're not committing these crimes against Palestinians. And she brought up the case of, Jose, you know the name of
Shireen Abu Akleh.
Right. She brought up
Yes, the Al Jazeera reporter.
Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
She brought up his case and
Her
how,
case.
her case.
Her case.
And how she was murdered by the IDF, and Schmuley, wouldn't let Kennedy respond to it. She
He
tried
took the
to
question.
derail it. Yeah, he took the question.
Well, I'll show you. I just queued it up. So we'll show her question and show you what happened, because the room just exploded over that one. And then your question is right after her question, so that we'll kind of get the context of what was happening in the room when you got up and kind of cooled the tensions. Your
Right.
question was perfectly timed, because things get really heated here. Take a look.
And we saw that, and that's why it's really important. And now, we have this entire retinue of new technologies, these frightening new surveillance technologies like AI, which our children are going to, have to deal with GPS, with facial recognition systems, with these low altitude, 415,000 low altitude satellites that have now, been given permits. And devices that can listen to you all day. So your devices are listening to you, harvesting your information when you cough, when you sneeze, when you mention a new pair of boots or a mattress and you get the ad. They're listening to you, and they are harvesting their data and selling it. But also governments can do that as well. So we have this new kind of turnkey totalitarianism that is waiting there for the first tyrannical impulse to get up and take advantage of it. And that's why it's so important right now that we build up the barricades of our own Bill of Rights and our own democratic systems and protect those and fortify them, because the wave of intrusive, of weaponized technology for totalitarian states is coming at us, and we need to be strong.
The COVID-19 vaccines are beyond the particular discussion we're having tonight, but I should say, because I'm sure it will come up, that the first time I met Bobby, I said to him, not only that I was quintuple vaxxed, as I said earlier, but I also told him that the World Values Network has a giant gala that we do every year at Carnegie Hall. And I want to acknowledge Gabe Bella's here, and where's Julie Bernstein, who helped, the main organizer of tonight. Thank you, Julie, wherever you are. God bless you. Came all the way from Miami to organize tonight. And Stephanie from the Kennedy team, Stephanie Spear, God bless you, Stephanie, and all the people who are Bobby's team. We're very devoted to him. But I told Bobby that we honored Albert Bourla, the CEO of Pfizer, for developing the vaccines. That's the first thing I said to him. And I said,
Boo, they booed. They booed.
Way to make myself popular, like a good Jewish boy. Okay, and I said that Albert Bourla, as a child of survivors, his family was annihilated in Thessalonica in Greece, the only city on earth to have experienced 97% annihilation of their Jewish community, and his father survived. And I said that you had developed the vaccines and saved many lives. Bobby did not do what you just did. He didn't boo me. He may have disagreed with me, but you know what makes What makes his campaign unique, and I'm calling on President Trump and President Biden and DeSantis and Nikki, everybody, to emulate his lead, you can actually disagree with Bobby and still have a strong intellectual bond and a strong and deep friendship. You don't have to choose every single side. That's a brain-dead America that none of us should endorse. A brain is not a liability. Okay, the next question, please. Well, you know what? There are most Orthodox Jews in America will probably agree with Bobby. I'll say they were very religious. They were anti-vax. I'm pro-vaccine. But you know what? Why can't we just talk without booing each other? I just don't get it. Go ahead, please.
Hi, yes. First of all, I would like to thank you for your position on mandates. As a Jewish woman who cares for justice, I do have a question. It's been about a year since U.S. citizen and journalist Shireen Abu Ablaka was shot by the IDF. It is known through both video and forensic science that it was definitely the IDF and that they targeted her. Are you willing to commit to calling for Israel to extradite the soldier to the U.S. with body cam for a public U.S. trial? She is a U.S. citizen and justice should be served. Also,
no, wait.
Let me finish.
I will let you say your second part.
Don't speak over me,
No,
sir.
let's just do
Let
one
me
question
finish.
at a time.
Sir, please let me finish. Also, please,
If you make it quick.
can you also commit to having a conversation one-on-one with Jewish Voice for Peace?
Okay, just one second, just a second. Come on. Wait. Let's be civil about this. What's your name, please?
My name is Janet Clark.
What is it?
Janet Clark Goodman.
Janet, thank you for coming tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Israel is a open democracy with a free press.
I didn't ask you, by the way.
No, excuse me. Well, you know what? Bobby will answer in a second. But I am going to correct misinformation. The IDF has now admitted that this renowned Palestinian journalist probably did die from an Israeli bullet during a shootout against terrorists. She was there covering it. What you said that she was deliberately targeted is an absolute lie. Now, what is the source?
She was definitely targeted.
No.
She had a helmet on.
Wait.
She had a helmet on and she had armor.
She has covered.
There is no way.
She covered dozens
There
of
is
military.
no way.
Wait.
It took a direct shot.
No. She covered dozens of military. She covered dozens of military raids. Why did they wait to target her?
It took a direct shot.
They were what?
It took a direct shot to get her between the helmet and the armor.
What is your source for this?
What my source? My source is forensics and the video.
You have no source.
And the video.
So Israel conducted a lengthy investigation about this, which is what they do always. And amazingly, they admitted it probably was an Israeli bullet. And unfortunately, there are journalists who die in war zones. It is tragic. This is a typical blood libel. Israel never targeted her.
I am Jewish. Do not tell me that. Mr. Kennedy,
no truth to this.
Please don't you believe that the U.S. should be able to adjudicate this? She was a U.S. citizen. She was also a journalist. And again, do you also commit to sitting down with the Jewish Voice for Peace and having a conversation with them, or do those Jewish voices not count? Yes, they do. Thank you.
Okay, enough. Let him respond, then we're going to move on. Go ahead.
I don't know enough about the case to make a judgment about, extradition, and I don't know if we even have an extradition treaty for that particular crime. Or what the basis of it would be in Israel or Palestine or wherever the killing took place. I just couldn't answer your question.
Thank you. No, you
Israel
cannot
is
dominate the evening. The next question, please.
Do you agree?
Dominate the evening.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Go ahead, please.
Hi.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Hello, Mr. Kennedy.
Save us, Kynan. Save
My
us.
question is on the topic of nuclear war, which you've addressed very well in your commencement address, which I think was one of the most important speeches given by a candidate. I'm personally an organizer for an organization called the International Peace Coalition. We've been organizing peace organizations across the world to really unite against this threat of nuclear war, you know? And we really have to bridge the gap, you know, as you said, because it no longer matters what our ideologies may be, what our particular beliefs are. Humanity is on the brink of annihilation, and we need to unite on that matter, no matter what.
But we need a question, please.
I'm getting to it. Thank you. But I want, because Kennedy, you talked about his American University speech. I think is probably one of the most important speeches. You know, we need a peace that's not for the grave, but a peace where all our families, everyone can cherish. And I want you to talk about that, and I really want you to endorse what we're doing with this peace coalition. And Helga Zepp-LaRue, she was the one who organized this.
We need a question, please.
She's calling for a durable security architecture among all the nations of the world. So I would like you to endorse that, and I'd like you to talk about the American University speech.
Well, first of all, I love what you said. Thank you for everything that you said, and thank you for advocating for that, because it's so critical right now. I mean, we're in a potentially existential battle with Russia. I mean, the U.S. is now is effectively at war with Russia. It's a nuclear power, and they have 1,000 more nuclear weapons than we do, and nobody seems to be caring about this. So, you know, I love what you said. My uncle, in that speech, which I agree was one of the most important speeches in American history, he had negotiated secretly a nuclear test ban treaty with Khrushchev. My uncle and Khrushchev had developed this extraordinary friendship with each other, where they could talk to each other on a hotline. Their State Department, their intelligence apparatus all wanted to go to war, but both of them had been to war. And Khrushchev had been at Stalingrad. The last thing he wanted was to go to war. And he recognized that he was a partner with my uncle. They wrote each other 26 secret letters. The first one was smuggled we had a Soviet spy who used to visit our house when I was a little boy. His name is Georgy Bolshakov. And and we loved him. The kid, me and my 10 brothers and sisters, he would play with us. He would do Cossack dancing. He would climb ropes with my dad and do push-up contests. And a very charming guy. And it was cool for us because we knew he was a KGB spy and a GRU spy. And this was at a time when all the James Bond films were coming out. So it was cool having a spy in our house. But my uncle Khrushchev knew he couldn't trust the people, his military apparatus, and my uncle knew that he couldn't trust his. They began corresponding with each other, hiding their letters in the New York Times, which Georgy Bolshakov would fly back and forth from Moscow and give them. And they devised a plan to create the first nuclear weapons treaty of the nuclear age, which was a nuclear test ban treaty. And when my uncle and they negotiated it secretly, they kept the State Department, the CIA out of it, and when they got the treaty, the U.S. sympathy for that treaty was 80-20 against it, and the military was in rebellion against my uncle. The Senate and House, even the Democrats, were all against it. And that speech was the beginning of turning the tide. And what he said something extraordinary to the American people. Because we had all been raised with this idea that we had won the war. You know, it was America who beat Hitler. And, you know, we were watching shows like Vic Morrow and Combat on TV that showed Americans beating the Nazis and winning the war. And my uncle said, no, it was the Russians who won the war. The Russians, 1 out of every 7 Russians was killed. Hitler leveled a third of the country. He said, Imagine if every city was reduced to rubble, every forest, every field burned, every forest burned between the East Coast and Chicago. That's what happened to Russia. And he said, we need to put ourselves into their shoes. We need to put ourselves in the shoes of our adversary. And it was the first time Americans had heard that, and they started thinking differently about it. And that 2 months later, that treaty passed. And, you know, I think it's important to think of today because nobody has talked to Putin for a year. We have no high-level relationship with Russia. We need to be talking to them. We need to do what my uncle said, which is to put ourselves in the shoes of our adversaries.
Very good. Okay,
Very
Yeah. Kynan?
Uh-oh. You had more to say. I'm sorry. I cut the video too soon.
No. That was it. Pretty
Did
much.
you get to say, it sounded like you were going to say something else. Were you going to say something else to Bobby, or was that it?
Oh, I don't hear Kynan.
I think you
No.
might be muted.
Maybe you got to refresh your
Oh.
StreamYard or something.
You might try that. Got your headphones on?
Hello, kitty.
My cat
Oh,
is very interested to hear what Kynan has to say.
Hear me now?
There we go.
Yeah.
Can you hear me
Now
now?
I can hear you. Yeah,
Okay, great.
all good.
It's probably because I took off my AirPods. Okay. Well, I did have something to say. Well, I just wanted to say thank you for the wonderful response, Mr. Kennedy. And I wanted to tell him that I think all of your supporters, all your volunteers should be circulating that speech, especially in the American University speech, especially in the lead up to August 6th, which I also wanted to tell him about. Fortunately, Schmuley, you know, not the greatest of moderators, so I couldn't get my 2 cents in afterwards.
It's terrible. Terrible moderator. Just talking over everybody,
Great.
including the candidate. I just wanted to tell him, shut up. You're not the guy running for president. Let the candidate
Yeah, right.
answer the damn question. Jeez.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.